Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero movie review and I'll be having a look at the movie Generation X. So Generation X, in case you don't know, was actually a spin-off of the popular X-Men franchise and was actually made as a movie in 1996. Now originally this was actually going to be a TV series, but that was failed to be picked up, so they just re-edited it and made it into a movie instead. Now it was released in the sort of directed sort of video market here in the UK, and I'm assuming that's probably what it was in other countries as well. So really this film focuses on the induction of two new members into the Generation X, namely Jubilee and Skin. Now interestingly with this film, it's established that the sort of Xavier's schools for gifted youngsters is actually established at this point, but there's no actual mention of Charles Xavier or any of the other X-Men. The actual school is actually run by Emma Frost and Banshee, Sean Cassidy. They already have some pre-existing students there. Now they have actually changed the lineup of the Generation X sort of from the comics, and that was really down to sort of budgetary reasons, because obviously some of the sort of mutants obviously have more flashy powers than others. So that the mutants that you'll see in this film, obviously I've mentioned, you've obviously got Emma Frost, who is actually probably, I'd say, portrayed fairly well. She's got a bit of a dodgy blonde wig going on, but I think it's kind of like intelligent but sort of tartiness almost comes over quite well. The guy who plays Banshee though has got a terrible Irish accent, I have to be honest with you. He's actually Canadian, the actor, but they're very, very sort of like, stereotypical cliched Irish accent. You've got Jubilee. She's been slightly changed from the comics. She's no longer sort of half Asian. She's just a Caucasian. Skin is obviously a sort of Latino. He's going to be from like the hood and what have you. So they're sort of brought in, and then there you've also got Mondo, who we can told obviously can sort of absorb materials, a bit like the Absorbing Man, really. It doesn't actually physically change into anything. He can just, for example, one bit he sort of absorbs a rock, but he just becomes solid, doesn't physically change. And you've also got M, who is kind of, we're told she's essentially the sort of perfection of everything there. But again, her powers don't actually sort of physically manifest. And then so we basically got two other characters who are sort of introduced. One is a bit of a Cyclops knockoff. He's sort of got lasers that shoots from his eyes, and a female who is basically sort of very overly muscular, although she always wears loose-fitting clothing, so you don't actually ever see it. So those last two guys are kind of made up for the actual this TV movie, whilst obviously other members weren't actually put in this film purely because their powers would simply be too expensive to sort of to show on the screen and on a sort of small TV budget. So the actual, one of the things I like about this film is the actual representation of teenagers. I think it's quite good. They do act like teenagers, I think. They kind of, some of them are disobedient, they kind of get into sort of trouble. They do sort of end up bonding together. And I thought it was quite good. For kind of a mid-90s TV show, I didn't think it was a bad representation. Now, the issue that I have, really, the way the story goes is you have like a supervillain set up, and he's played by Matt Frewer, and the character's name is Russell Trench. I'm wondering if that was a play on the character Trask from the comics, but as far as I know, this guy's completely made up. And basically, Matt Frewer plays him like an evil Ace Ventura. It's the best way to describe it. And I think this is where this film goes wrong. It could have been pretty decent, but it goes way too campy sometimes. And basically, he's kind of, he and Emma Frost knew each other at one point. They were kind of developing like a machine that can kind of go into people's dreams. He's kind of got branded as a loon. He wants ultimately to sort of try and find a mutant so he can try and make himself a mutant ultimately by sort of extracting the X gene from their brain and kind of implanting it in himself. And he sort of has developed his own sort of like apparatus so he can go into people's dreams. And he sort of, Emma Frost's got her own version of it as well. And ultimately he ends up sort of coercing Skin to sort of try and help him when he gets sort of yanked out of gym and goes into a catatonic state and sort of kidnaps Skin to try and sort of get his X gene. And it takes all of the Generation X to try and rescue him at the end. And okay, so the issues with this film mainly is, I think, is Matt Frewer and the villain that he plays. Now, I'm not sure if that's obviously down to him or generally the direction. I think this is probably the director and the way, that he was basically told to portray it. So he's just like Ace Ventura, and that's how he plays him. And it just doesn't seem, it's not at all threatening. He's just a guy, just basically a guy with a machine. See, he suddenly has this. We told he has this mutation at the end, but we don't really sort of see anything to do that. So it takes a whole team really just to defeat one guy with a dream machine, and it's that there's no real drama, there's no real excitement, and because of these, he plays it so campy. It's just ridiculous, to be honest with you, which is a shame because there's when the action focuses on the actual Generation X, the team of mutants themselves, I actually think it's pretty decent. I mean, it's got some nice comic references. I mean, Emma Frost even mentions the Hellions getting killed, so a great little reference that's going to go over the head of most people and things like that. But unfortunately, then it goes the flip side and just goes into weird campiness. And I think maybe the tone of this TV movie may have been that much better if they kind of treated it a little bit more seriously. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have any sort of humour in it, but maybe the actual Generation X members actually had a bit of some humorous dialogue themselves, and I think the villain should have actually been sort of trying to sort of be villainous and trying to be threatening rather than kind of like Jim Carrey meets the Joker. So a missed opportunity there, I feel. I don't know the reasons, obviously, why it wasn't picked up a series, but I actually think the theory of this could have been fairly good. Obviously, it's a limited budget, and you may have other members, and even possibly X-Men sort of coming in. If it was picked up as a series, who knows? Who knows where it would have gone? But a bit of a missed opportunity, but certainly not a bad film. Apart from the ultimately the villain plot as well. I mean, the other thing that I guess I was sort of criticising, it's maybe a little bit garish. As I say, Emma Frost's wig's a little bit distracting, and some of the sort of costumes are very sort of cheap-looking disco wear. But again, we're looking at a TV budget, and to be honest with you, it's only really Emma Frost that ever sort of wears a costume as such until right at the end. But that's really a minor nit, because I don't think that can be really criticised too much. I think the acting is fairly decent for this sort of thing. Apart from, as I say, the actor playing Banshee, who has just got this terrible Irish accent. So ultimately, it's a bit of a missed opportunity, this film. But I think if you're an X-Men fan, you'd probably you'd probably like it a little bit more than kind of your average fan, because of the sort of like some of the sort of little references and things like that. You've got the plaque on the wall of the sort of Charles Xavier, and we even see stuff like the Danger Room and stuff like that. So even some stuff that isn't even in the X-Men film so much, it's actually here. So I only give this film a 5.5 out of 10. So actually not too bad. I was quite enjoyed it. And I watched it for this review, and obviously seen it when it sort of came out originally. And I actually think I enjoyed it more this time round. Now, a bit older and kind of a bit more sort of reverence for the material. So 5.5, slightly above average, I'd have to say, for this kind of like TV show, mid-90s budget, etc. Go check it out if you're an X-Men fan. If you've seen it, leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.